when our friend and co-worker, Anquinette Jameson, suddenly left the anchor desk, and she turned to the alternative drug for the treatment of her multiple sclerosis. And now she's sharing her story. This is how Anquinette Jameson used to start her days, delivering the news. Now Q is no longer reporting the news, she is the news. Doing something she never could have predicted, fighting for the legalization of marijuana, a drug she relies on every day. Are you down, down, down? I'm hoping to open a dialogue. To friends and co-workers, Q always seemed strong and healthy. Then in 2014, she was stunned to hear that she had an incurable, long-term disease, multiple sclerosis. My MS primarily affects my cognition and my memory and my working memory, my processing speed, and just all the things that help you carry on a coherent conversation. Drugs, and lots of them, became part of Q's daily routine at a price of tens of thousands of dollars a year. The cost adding up financially and physically. She was never taking more medicine, and she never felt more sick. I was nauseated most of the times, to the point where I was taken to the hospital several times because I could not stop throwing up. In her search for relief from the pain, the nausea, and a peaceful night's sleep, Q discovered a better option: medical marijuana. It's working for me. It works for a lot of people, and I've decided that I want to make sure people not only know that, but also have access to safe, tested products. Now Q is on another mission. She's getting into the cannabis business. There are a lot of people out there who are in a lot of pain, and that pain or their conditions are not necessarily being fully managed on the treatments that they are being prescribed, and they're looking for alternatives. This Warren warehouse is going to be her grow facility, eventually filled with hundreds of cannabis plants. Those plants will turn into many options, including sweet baked goods. Chia seeds and hemp seeds, superfoods. In her kitchen, after learning from a professional baker, Q is perfecting recipes so that one day soon she will offer her own line of edibles. It is medicine. Mm-hmm. So when we're traditionally thinking about getting medicine, we think of a doctor writing us a prescription. It doesn't work that way. Here's how it does work. If you qualify for a medical marijuana card, you go to a dispensary, and that's where it gets complicated. If I go into Joe's dispensary and I buy some capsules for my brother with epilepsy, how do I know what I'm getting? You don't. Right now, you really don't. When we have a regulated market, you will know. Because that's the goal. That is one of the goals. We're going to talk more to Q in just a few minutes about this journey she's on. She is one of our special guests this morning, answering your questions about medical marijuana. We have 3 experts here to talk to you. My other guests include Dr. Gregory Barkley, a Henry Ford Hospital neurologist who specializes in epilepsy. Also, Roseville Police Chief James Berlin. He was just appointed to serve on the state's marijuana advisory panel, and of course, our friend Anquinette Jameson. So the 3 of them are on Facebook Live right now answering your questions. If you have a medical question, if you have a question about Q's personal experience, and of course if you have a question for law enforcement about how you are handling this strange time. But really, it's like the wild, wild west out there when it comes to medical marijuana and figuring out everything. We'll talk more to them in just a minute, but right now they can talk to you on Facebook Live. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Medical marijuana was approved by voters in Michigan back in 2008, but no conversation about marijuana is complete without a discussion about the possible risks. Rhett Reeder is a licensed social worker and is the owner of Milford Counseling. He's also a recovering addict of 15 years. He recently sat down with us and talked about his own battle with addiction. It included opioids like heroin, but it also included marijuana and alcohol. And it's different than the cannabis used by medical marijuana patients. Reeder says the marijuana being smoked today is stronger than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
They definitely put a lot of time and money into making this industry much more addictive and much more potent. Moms, dads, husbands, kids, you name it, everybody you can think of can come in with an addiction to pot. It pretty much does everything that smoking can do and more. Plus it inebriates you, so you don't have like a straight cognitive, rational line of thinking when you're really high on something.
So that is another perspective for you. Rhett believes that marijuana can be a dangerous gateway drug. What does the research say? Coming up, we're going to talk one-on-one with Dr. Gregory Barkley, the Henry Ford neurologist, He can tell us all about what the facts are, risks, benefits of the use of medical marijuana. So this costs $2,000 a month, and this costs $200 a month.
Yes.
First, she's a local woman who was plagued by chronic seizures, epilepsy. When we come back, what she says happened when she turned to vaping cannabis. Her story's coming up next. We heard from Q about how she's using medical marijuana to control her symptoms of MS. But it's also being used by patients with another disease. I sat down with a young woman who at one time was plagued by seizures caused by epilepsy. At first glance, it seems like a store filled with funky furnishings. But when you scroll through this or walk up in Ann Arbor, eventually you get to a private room. And there you find it, in every possible form, medical marijuana.
How's everything going? Great?
Everything's going great.
For 31-year-old Zara Abbas of Dearborn, discovering this dispensary changed her life, and no one is more surprised than she is. There was a time when she was very much against this treatment.
It was this big drug that's so taboo, basically, and it's what's going to get you onto harder drugs, and it's what's going to ruin your life. And I considered that a worse drug than all the medications that I was ever on.
Diagnosed with epilepsy as a teenager, she has lived a guarded life, afraid of an unpredictable seizure, and they were happening daily.
But there's always just that fear, am I going to have a seizure?
To stop the seizures, Zara is taking handfuls of pills every day, and eventually resorts to brain surgery. But even that doesn't help. One day her doctor suggests what seems like a radical idea: medical marijuana. She's desperate and reluctant, but starts taking capsules filled with cannabis oil, and her world changes. And how soon after you start taking it do you notice the seizures go away?
It was within a few days.
Within a few days, there's no more seizures.
Yeah.
Since she started using cannabis, she's been seizure-free for more than 2.5 years. With her medical marijuana card in hand, Zara is now a regular at this dispensary, refilling her dose of capsules about every 2 months at a cost of $500 cash. There are many options: buds, pills, oils, and edibles. But Zara's main message to me is that when she uses cannabis, she is not, quote, getting high.
So that's all I usually need, is if I'm getting a headache or if I'm in pain, is just use just one puff from it and it helps.
When you take a puff off the vape, it is not like smoking a joint.
No.
Now, with the combination of vaping cannabis oil and taking the capsules, Zara has taken herself off of most of her pharmaceutical medications.
It's treated my epilepsy and given me like a new quality on life.
Zara uses cannabis for the treatment of her epilepsy symptoms. Now, Henry Ford neurologist Gregory Barclay joins me now with more on those using cannabis as medicine. Doctor, thank you for being here. I want to start with Zara's story because she has taken herself off medication because a lot of doctors aren't quite sure how to advise patients. A lot of doctors aren't sure what they're getting into with medical marijuana. How do you do that as a patient?
So I think I would look at cannabis as another medication for epilepsy. Zara has epilepsy. There have now been 4 placebo-controlled double-blind trials of CBD, one of the cannabinoids, in the treatment of epilepsy. And we expect any day now that the company that is making this product is going to submit it for FDA approval as a prescription drug in the next year or so.
Okay, so CBD, one of the oils in one of the many strains of cannabis. First of all, what other research has been done? So you're saying that there has been solid research that says it is a real effective treatment to stop seizures in patients with epilepsy?
Yes. There are already 2 synthetic THC cannabinoids on the market that have been on the market for years in the United States for treatment of chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting and to improve appetite in people who have cancer or AIDS or other wasting diseases. In Europe and in Canada, there's a 50-50 mixture of THC and CBD that has been on the market for years for the treatment of spasticity in multiple sclerosis and in neuropathic pain. So we know that the scientific research has shown that these compounds are effective in a number of medical conditions.
Okay, so cannabis, in your opinion, and in the opinion of many scientists, is effective medical treatment. It's also very cost effective.
So in the United States, there has been two studies published in the journal Health Affairs in the past year by Bradford and Bradford, where they looked at prescribing patterns in states where medical marijuana is available and compared them to prescribing patterns in states where it's not available. They looked at Medicaid prescriptions in one study and Medicare prescriptions in the other. And they found in each case that in every state in which marijuana is available, the prescription costs in that state have dropped. In the state of Michigan, the latest data in 2014 from their recent paper shows that the state of Michigan saved in direct Medicaid prescription costs almost $16 million in 2014.
Okay, so you're talking about saving money for an individual and, of course, saving money for the state, the taxpayers. Testing, and we're going to talk more about this with Q coming up. So we have dispensaries that are popping up in various places. It seems most of them in Detroit at this point. How do you know what you're getting in that capsule? How do you know what you're getting to put in that vape?
You had the right term earlier today when you said it was the Wild West. And what we hope that this is treated just like any other medication with stringent, transparent, and clear rules that govern the testing of cannabis and regulations requiring it to be tested so that the same kind of CLIA laboratory rules and ISO 9000 rules that are involved with manufacturing and laboratory testing are applied to cannabis, not only to identify the major cannabinoids, but the contaminants, molds, fungi, residual pesticides or herbicides, and when people are using extracts, whether there's any residual petroleum products or bad things that might cause
know what you're putting in your body, in other words.
Yes.
Real quick, Doctor, I know you're getting a lot of questions on Facebook, and you're going to return to Facebook right now. People asking, can this help with my chronic pain? We did a special on opioids where people said, I want to use something else that's not as addictive. Is it less addictive, and does it treat pain?
There are a small percentage of people who start using cannabis who get into dependency issues, just like with alcohol or narcotics or anything else. But it is safer in that overdoses don't lead to fatal side effects.
Okay.
Many of the people who use cannabis are able to get off narcotics because it provides more effective pain relief, particularly for neuropathic pain, than the opioids.
Good information, Doctor. Thank you. I'll let you get back to Facebook and practice your typing skills there. Dr. Barkley, Gregory Barkley, we invite you to join the conversation. You can go to our Fox 2 Facebook page and ask our panelists questions. When we come back, we are going to talk with Antoinette about the questions she's getting this morning and where she is going on this journey.